Hi there, I'm Des.
And I'm Tim, and together Des and I head up the men's ministry Momentum Australia.
Momentum has multiple functions, but primarily our aim is to help men to succeed in life, to do life better.
We run a weekly radio show that goes all around Australia where we talk about anything and everything that relates to men.
And we encourage men to do life in community, to do life with other men where we can be accountable, we can be welcomed, we can be open and honest about what's happening in our world.
We'd love you to have a look around our website. That's momentumaustralia.org. There you'll find a bunch of resources to help you on your journey and all of our previous episodes and topics.
We thank you for your interest in Momentum Australia, and we hope you enjoyed this video today.
Okay, well, welcome to this week's Momentum. Once again, Tim and Des with you all around Australia, which is just awesome. I think 45 stations are now taking the show, which is just brilliant. And of course, Vision FM as well. So we are nationwide, and wherever you are right now, it's great to have you tuning in, whatever time it is in your state. Great to have you here as we settle in for another show. And of course, I never do this alone. Des Kennedy, my co-host, good friend, is with us as always. How are you?
I'm really good, thanks. It's such a joy to be able to do this and reach into men's lives. It's such a rewarding thing to do. We're so blessed.
Yeah, it is. And look, if you'd like to find out a bit more about Momentum, who we are, what we do, ways you can find us, the simple start is the website, momentumaustralia.org. A bunch of stuff on there, of course, previous shows, other resources to help you on your journey, ways to connect. And of course, if you'd like to financially support us, we are a ministry and a charity. And, we run things very leanly. And if you'd like to help us, essentially reach men all around Australia through the radio show, but all around the world through our podcast. I mean, that's our reach now, which is just phenomenal and a little overwhelming, Des. But yeah, if you'd like to help us out, momentumaustralia.org is a great place to start. And of course, if you're feeling like you're not connected, Des, we've got a great option for guys that is nationwide as well.
Yeah, we sure do. And we're so blessed to have an amazing number that's easy to remember. And that's the Momentum Caroline, which is 1-800-000-636, which is men. So 1-800-000-men. And it's provided by our friends at Caroline Connections. And they're available from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week, which is just amazing. So if you're on your own or you feel you need to have a confidential and safe conversation with somebody you don't know, just have a chat, help talk things through, 1-800-000-men. And so that's really cool. But also we now have our YouTube channel. And so I encourage you to go to YouTube, search for Momentum for Men, and you will see our logo. And we now have 4 shows online there. We'll be putting more on every week. And so you can see us as well as hear us.
Yeah. Puts a bit of pressure on us, Des, doesn't it? Having to have our hair done now that
I
we're on
have to comb my hair every morning.
It's tricky. It's tricky. But in all seriousness, look, there are more ways to connect. And, we just recognize that a lot of things are not audible anymore, not just audio, a lot of visual medium out there. And so we thought, hey, you know what? We should step into that space as well. So YouTube channel, Caroline, if you need to connect with someone, 1-800-000-636. And of course, all starts at the website, momentumaustralia.org. And look, if you would like to listen to just a podcast, Momentum Australia, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, all the main platforms that you can listen to all of the backlog of shows, which is 120 episodes or something, Des?
130.
130 now. Okay, cool.
Missed the last 10.
Got some work to do. Talking of connection, we're coming into that time of year where, it's Christmas. Generally, it's family oriented, and that can be good for some, and it can be really terrible for others, let's be honest, because some of us just don't have great family connections. But we're talking about connections in a different way this week. And we have talked about this before, Des. We're talking about connect groups. And we talked about this in May last year, about the importance of men getting into connect groups, but particularly men's connect groups, not necessarily just mixed connect groups. And we thought we'd revisit this coming into this time of year. I mean, we know that some connect groups are going to stop, but it's more about just the connection piece in general, because a lot of men are still doing life in isolation. And the truth is, we're not meant to do that.
No. And there's so many reasons, valuable reasons why men need to connect. Just generically connect in their church world. It's easy to go and sit in a church and just be a hanger-on. But if you're part of a connect group, there's lots of value, not only to the church you're sowing into the church, but also to you. So, engaging overall with your church community, you're involved with your pastor or your group leader and so forth. And, and not often it's a Bible study, which is important because a lot of guys, struggle with doing Bible study on their own. And so going to a connect group where you can do that is such a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I think when you boil it back, Des, I mean, a lot of us go to church for a bunch of different reasons, but I think one of the key reasons a lot of people go to church generically is the connection piece.
Yeah.
You know, I belong to something bigger than myself.
Absolutely.
This is a place where I feel safe to be around like-minded people. Hopefully feel safe to be around like-minded people. And of course, you know, some of the larger churches, the reason that they do connect groups is because you can't necessarily connect well in a church of several thousand or whatever it may be, or several hundred. And so, you know, you get a smaller, more intimate setting with the connect group where you can build deeper relationships.
No, exactly. And that's so important, especially in today's day and age where there's so much influence in our world external to our faith. And so to have, you know, a group of people in our world where you can talk together about the Bible and talk about, you know, spiritual things, that's such a good thing. And also the fact that, you know, husband and wives can actually go and do life together in a church, which makes so much sense, right? So, you know, and also single people, you know, being like me, being single, it means that you do find a sense of family, you do have a sense of community, and that's a really, really good thing to do.
Yeah, I want to actually just you've skipped over those days, but let's unpack that a bit more. I mean, because I mean, you and I both. I mean, I'm remarried now. You're still single, but you know, we've both had that season of singledom, and I can honestly say, when I was a single, being in a men's connect group for me was an absolute lifeline.
Yeah.
Because aside from my work, and I connected obviously with people at work, but aside from that, I was in a city where it wasn't my original city and I didn't know a lot of people. And so to be connected into the men's group for me, I looked forward to that Monday night when I went to the men's connect group, because for me, that was at least one night of the week where I connected with a bunch of guys that were on a similar plane. And it made me feel like there was something, again, that I could attach to, that I belonged to, particularly as a single. And for me, that was huge, not having immediate family around me.
Yeah, and that's so true. And just the ability to talk about your world and what's happening in your world, whether it be a generic connect group, male and female, or whether it be a men's connect. And obviously for men, you know, being able to talk openly and honestly about some of the things that impact men in their world, as opposed to, I mean, the things that I would talk about if I was in a relationship that I'd talk about in a men's connect group that has no way I would talk about in a mixed. About your identity, about all sorts of stuff that you're dealing with.
For sure. Absolutely. You also mentioned, Des, and I thought this was really interesting because let's be honest, husband and wife, we generally will go to church on the Sunday, but through the week can be a little tricky if we've got kids or, you know, other things happening. And it can be that, you know, one week it might just be that one goes on their own and one looks after the kids and whatever it may be. But I think, you know, there's those moments and it's a great opportunity for husbands and wives to go, hey, you know, let's say it's a Wednesday night, for example, we make sure that every Wednesday or every fortnight we get a babysitter so we can both be there together. It's something that we do together. Not that it's a date night per se, but it kind of is a kind of faux date night. And it's something that you're both investing into together. You're investing into the relationships into that group together. You're learning from the word. You're around like-minded people. You're building relationships and connections within the group together. And I just think there's something really beneficial about that as a couple.
Yeah, agree.
You know, I don't think you'll get that sort of intimacy again that you're talking about, Des. I think the need for female groups and male groups outside of that will take things to a deeper level. But I think as a marriage, you know, that's a great opportunity to get into something that's not the big church, but it's a group of people that might live closer to you, that, you know, are perhaps similar to you, and they've got kids similar age and that sort of thing. You know, there's so many commonalities there.
And a lot of them, you know, a lot of mixed groups, they bring their kids along. So the kids go into one room and they have games to play and whatever, and they all eat together and do that stuff. And then they have the time together as, you know, as a connect group, and it's really cool. So yeah, there's huge value in that. And husband and wives making friends together is such a good thing.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about the fact that it is good for marriages. Let's talk about then some of the challenges that men would struggle with being in a mixed group. And, you know, we can all kind of think of the obvious ones, is that there's certain barriers to what you would and wouldn't share.
That's the big one. That's the big one. We all have things that are specific to us, right? And men are the same. They've got things that are generic to men. It could be identity. It could be how to deal with their wives. It could be how do I get rid of my wife? No, I didn't mean that. So, but you know, guys struggle with their relationships often, as do women, but men struggle with their relationships. And quite often getting alongside other men, you can be open and talk about those things. Because if it's a safe, confidential, you know, men's group, you know, are built around the premise of confidentiality and safety and so forth, then you can be open about what's happening in your world, whatever that looks like, and you know, get help, get support, get encouragement, you know, all those things.
I mean, look, this is perhaps not a great time to slot this into the conversation, but it's honest to say that if I had the option of going to a mixed group or a men's group, I mean, for me, I would choose a men's group as a bloke.
Yeah.
But I can see benefit now as a married that my wife and I would go to a mixed group, if that makes
Yes.
sense. So I can see the benefit in both, but I think my preference certainly would be to, if I had the option to sit in a men's group, just purely because, like you said, Des, you've got that opportunity to go a little deeper with some of the stuff and a little more honest and open and transparent about some of the stuff that you really need to be chatting about. The mixed group, I think, is good for a social piece and good for you and your wife. But I think as far as having a safe space to bear some of those innermost parts for a man, I think we need that space away from our wives.
Yeah, and I think it's, gives the guys the opportunity to talk about what's happening in their marriage. That marriages are never static. There's always things ebbing and flowing in a relationship, and to face something and face it with a community is so much easier, because a problem shared is a problem to have. I mean, it's a proverb, but that's actually true. And so, it's so important that men, but I mean, again, just being with other men, whether it be a social connect or a spiritual connect in terms of Bible study and stuff, or whatever it looks like, that community is such a good thing.
We're talking about, men. Let's stick with the men's connect group there for a second, Des, before we launch into the break. But, there'll be guys listening who are a part of a men's group and they love it. It is that for them. It's a place where they can go and feel openly received and safe and can honestly talk about, some of the stuff in their life. They've built that relationship. There'll be men listening who go to a connect group, but they're not really engaged. They kind of attend, but they don't really engage their hearts or open up. And there'll be men listening that would go, getting with a bunch of blokes and talking about some of the icky stuff in my life is just not where I'm at right now. Like, that sounds like something, my worst nightmare. I'm just not ready to step into that space, or I don't want to step into that space. Do you have anything to say around particularly that latter part for guys who would struggle to step into that space?
Look, I think being in a connect group is better than not being in a connect group, whether you open up or you don't. I think one of the things that we promote in Momentum is, having at least one person alongside you who is common with you in terms of your belief system, who is common with you in terms of faith, is what I'm saying. And so just to have that one person, in that connect group that you feel you can identify with is so, so important. And we say often that, best to find that person to help you before strife hits your life, rather than try and find that person when you've gone down a hole. And so, yeah, I mean, it's so important that you just get connected. If you don't feel at any point in time that you want to engage in what's happening in your own world, just get alongside somebody and just do life with them. And the time will come where you build up enough trust to open up a bit. And that's about anyway as well.
Yeah. Look, I think, and we've been on the journey too, where I think, you and I both have similar stories of isolation, and, the crisis point of marriage breakdown and things has led us into pursuing greater connection.
Yeah.
And once you step into that space, and let's be honest, it does feel a little awkward and uncomfortable at first, and start talking about things that, you wouldn't talk about generically as a bloke. And it does kind of feel a little, wow, this is confronting, you know, but when you start stepping into that space and that sort of depth, and again, it happens over a period of time. It's not, you're not going to go from 1 to 10, you know, in one meeting. It's going to take time to develop that trust and that ability to kind of feel comfortable in stepping into that space. But there is real benefit then in having people around you that you connect with on a regular basis who know what's happening in your life, who can help you, with your marriage, or can speak into the space of your kids, or even just stand in prayer with you.
Yes, exactly.
Know that, I'm not doing this on my own. I've got a couple of people in my phone on speed dial that I can go to at any hour of the day or night, and they're going to either love me, support me, give me a loving kick up the butt, encourage me. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Those sorts of people. But it does take time, and it takes, as the magic word is always, intentional. It's not going to happen. So the attendance piece, Des, I think, as you said, is good. It's a good starting point. If nothing else, attend. But the goal here is to go, because you can be seen but not fully seen. Like, you can show up but you can't be seen. You know what I mean? I think there's a difference between showing up and being seen.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. It's really cool.
You know, we're talking about connection, and we're talking about guys fostering that connection. The truth is also that sometimes there'll be stuff happening in your life that perhaps you don't want to share with your best friend.
Yeah.
It's a little too close to home, or people in your world, and you just need somebody that's outside of the circle. And maybe it might be that first step that you've been hanging on to something for years, right? And you know you've got to share it with someone, but you not sure that you want to share it with your mate or your best mate or you guys at church or whatever, but you need to get something off your chest, either a professional, you know, psychologist, counselor, whatever, or if you want to do that on the care line, it is completely confidential, 1-800-000-636. It's an important thing to do, and it can often be the first start in the step in the healing process when you just share that stuff. Hey,
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's an uncomfortable step for all of us to reach out to somebody, whether we know them or not, to talk about things in our world that need to be healed. And so, you know, it takes courage. It takes being a valiant man, for want of a better word, to step in. I'm going to find somebody that I can talk to this about, so that I can get healed, so that I can at least have somebody who understands where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the biggest problems, isn't it? That men, you know, think nobody's going through what I've gone through.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
invariably we have, or they have, or somebody has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, and we talked about this with Richard Fay on one of the shows, shame, when men feel shame, it's one of the biggest stumbling blocks to us getting healing.
Yeah.
And I saw a quote and I quoted it to somebody recently and they said, oh, can you send me that? That was brilliant. And the quote is, shame dies when stories are told in safe places.
Well, I love that. That's so true, you know.
Shame dies when stories are told in safe places, because we carry this stuff and we isolate ourselves because we might feel shame in an area of our lives, whether it's present, past, or whatever.
And it impacts our self-esteem. It impacts
100%.
everything around our world. It impacts our faith journey as well, because we don't feel we're worthy of a relationship with God. It's so not true, but as we as men think.
And to be honest, I think this is why a lot of men isolate generically.
Yeah.
And we're talking about connect groups this week, and let's just bounce straight into that and go. I think this is one of the reasons why men don't go to connect groups, because they feel shame around certain aspects of their lives. And being in a group, they're like, oh, am I going to have to share some of that stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I'll check out from that, or I won't even, or I'll go, but I won't necessarily check in fully. You know, we talked about that in the first part of the show.
It's very easy to go to a connect group and you feel as if everybody else around you is super spiritual and absolutely, you know, got a, you know, local call line to heaven and so on. And so, you know, that leads to, you know, you feeling I'm not worthy, I'm not, you know, I'm too bad, and so forth. And you know, I remember before I came to Christ, my thought was that I had all these voices in my head telling me why I shouldn't be a Christian, and no voices telling me why I should. So I think that parallels to how we might deal with ourselves and judge ourselves, perhaps. But the important thing is that everybody who goes to a men's connect group is carrying something.
Absolutely. And this is the thing,
included.
100%. When you find a space that is safe enough to talk on this level, you will realize that everybody in that group is carrying something. Now, it may not look quite like yours, but it'll be similar. And you know, this is the beauty. You know, authenticity and vulnerability actually is the great leveler, because when you start speaking on that level, you realize that everybody has something. And not that we wear a facade and we fake it till we make it, but, you know, all of us put a public image on, and then we've got a private image as well. And, you know, and some of that stuff does need to be shared in the right place. That's for sure. Right. But when you get into that safe space, absolutely, you realize that all men struggling with something to some degree. And that is why it's absolutely imperative that we do get connected as guys and get past that surface level and go, actually, you know what? Let's just get this out right now. We're all, you know, none of us is perfect. We've all got something in our lives we shouldn't. Let's just talk about that. Let's pray for each other. Let's encourage each other and walk the journey together.
And it's so enlightening, and it's so helpful for men when they realize other guys open up and they talk about their world and the things they're struggling with, whatever that looks like. It really does encourage you to step up yourself and say, hey, you know, I'm not perfect here. You know, I'm Des Kennedy and I'm carrying this issue. So forth. So it's really good. But let me ask you, Tim, what would a good men's connect group look like? What are the things that you hope to find in a men's group that you would want to attend?
I think the first thing is that they play momentum shows every week.
Amen.
Either that or watch the YouTube video. Look, either or, I'm not. But look, like actually is a good suggestion. But no, look, in all seriousness, a good men's group. Look, I think it's fostered essentially, and this is where I think the person who leads is so important. A bit like the church
critical.
leader, right? Because you can't take people on a journey that you haven't done yourself.
No,
But
exactly.
you can't
Yeah.
take places into places where you haven't been yourself. And as I think the first thing you should look for if you're looking for a group is what's the leader like?
Yeah. Yeah. Is he caring?
Is he friendly? Do you feel
Yeah.
like he was
Is he
genuinely
interested?
happy to meet you, interested in he kind of pursued you a little bit with, hey, I'm not forcing you, but just checking in and that sort of thing. Was there an air of ease and honesty and vulnerability and transparency?
Yeah. So if somebody comes along to you as a leader of a group and they say, hello, tell me your life story in 30 seconds. Don't join that group.
But look, I think
it's true. Somebody who's genuinely interested and somebody who's genuinely got a heart for men wants to get alongside you and meet you for coffee and, be part of your world. That's what you're looking for.
100%. And look, I think you feel it, and it sounds weird to say that, but I think you just get a sense off people.
Yeah, of course.
We've all been burned. Let's be honest, where we've trusted people that we thought were safe and whatever. But I think you can genuinely get a good sense for someone when you meet them, and particularly if they're leading a men's group. I mean, if this is a space that's confronting for you, or you're hesitant about, you need to feel like that person that is leading the group is safe, is not going to burn you, is warm and friendly, has a pastoral heart, and that will carry through into the men's group. So then, I suppose to answer your question, Des, what am I looking for that's a good men's group? Somewhere where the guys look like when I walk in, they're already looking like they're connecting.
Yes.
They're not just sat around on their own. Nobody's talking. It's very quiet, and and you go, oh gosh, like I've been to those men's groups.
That's
and
cool.
to be honest, if I hadn't have been speaking at the men's group, I would have walked out and gone, no, this is not for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because trying to foster an air of honesty and transparency in a place where they obviously haven't been taught that is very, very difficult.
Yeah, it is. But what would you do if you decide, say this guy's listening and they go to the local church and there's a men's group, but they go along and they don't feel connected. They don't feel engaged. What should they do?
I think you got to look at that in two ways. Is the connection because I'm not making an effort,
Yes.
or is the connection because other people aren't making an effort, right? And so we can only do our part, right?
Yes.
And our part, I think, is wherever we go, is to, let's be honest, the fruits of the spirit. I can go and make myself kind and friendly. I can inquire. I can say hi. I can ask people about their lives. I can do a part. I can make my part and go into a group and go, okay, I'm doing my part. Then I suppose the question, Des, is it coming back?
Yes.
Are other people interested in my life? Are they connecting with me? Are they connecting with each other? So I think if it's not happening, you go, okay, is it me? Is it me that I'm just shut down and I walk in and I feel rejected because I'm not really making an effort?
Yeah.
Or is there other stuff happening in the room that might need to be addressed at perhaps a leadership level and go, look, this feels dry and stilted and awkward. And no guys are going to want to step into that space or stay in that space. And they certainly ain't going to open up in that space.
I mean, I went to a men's group in Perth, because it was in Perth a little while ago. And so I went to this group and, the guys would get together and they were singing together and they were worshiping together. And there was something amazingly powerful about a guy who played the guitar, not particularly good, but just a guy playing the guitar, and they started to worship together. And that's such an amazingly good thing as part of a good men's connect group, that they can worship together and praise the Lord together. I think that's so important. And also things like Bible study. And as you said before, praying with each other is so key. Let's get, actually, I went to a group right at the very beginning when I was on the Gold Coast, and I went to this combined group, and I was standing beside this guy, a guy we both know, a guy called Paul Dinkelman. And so we ended up, they said break into twos and pray. So he and I end up together, right? And so the first thing I said to Paul was, I don't like praying in public. And he said, neither do I.
We have a problem.
So let's just pray to God, just together, and we'll not be frightened of anything, and we'll not, we're both in the same boat. And that was the most wonderful experience, right? Because it took me out of my comfort zone, but in an area where I felt safe. Yeah. So it's really cool. Yeah.
So I suppose if we're going to come back a step, Des, right, what a good group should feel like. Some basic, some points, right? You walk in, there feels like there's a good vibe in the room,
Yeah.
right? It feels like there's life in the room.
Yes. Yes.
And most importantly, there feels like there could be an air of freedom in the room.
Yes.
Like people are connecting. There's
Yeah.
a warmth,
Yeah.
there's a
You
good
need to be
sense of that.
welcome. Yeah.
You need to feel welcome, right? Food is always great as well. You don't have to have food, but food is a great starting point for blokes. It's a great icebreaker for guys to start talking
Yeah.
over food before the meeting, right? Opening the meeting in prayer, having a worship, absolutely. Praying for each other, absolutely. Getting into small groups to talk about something, absolutely. Then, of course, you've got doctrine and, what's the theology? How does that line up? I mean, all these things are important. But to be honest, I've been in so many men's groups that don't offer prayer for each other. It saddens me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm like, even if at the end you go, hey, look, guys, you're free to go, but if anyone wants to stay back and we'll pray for you, there's 3 or 4 guys, you get some prayer. Don't walk out, like, and nobody may partake in that, but at least it's on offer,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
just think for guys, like, we need that space because we might carry our stuff through the whole meeting.
Yeah.
Right. I don't feel comfortable to share yet. But at the end, I might just get that prompting to go, I can't leave with this. I'm going to go up to Pastor, what's his name at the front, and just go, hey, I need to talk to you and can you pray for me?
Yeah.
And I just think, man, if we're not offering guys that in a men's group,
Yeah.
in a church men's connect,
Yeah.
like, we've kind of missed it to some degree.
And there's so many that do, they do have Bible teaching, or you got somebody speaking, and maybe they have worship, maybe they don't. But often, in my experience, they don't spend the time one-on-one praying with each other and so forth.
Yeah.
And that is where the power is,
Yeah.
in terms of healing and camaraderie and friendship and so forth. Because if you're praying for each other, you're both reaching out to God and asking for help or asking for support, whatever it is,
100%.
right? Doing it together for each other.
Yeah. So if you're looking for a group, can we encourage you? Look for those sorts of things. The first thing is, I think when you walk in, if there's a warmth and a genuine kind of feels like there's a good vibe in the room, like that's a good starting point. And if your current group doesn't have that, then what can you or what can others in the group do to change that?
Yes,
because again, we've all been in groups where we've kind of suffered through it, and it's felt like forever, and it's a horrible, and nobody's talking, and it's just miserable. And I'm like, I could be at home, and I'd probably prefer to be at home. I mean, let's be honest. But unless somebody's going to step up, whether it's you or you go to the leader and go, can we change something? This is not working. Like, we need to look at this and be honest.
Yeah.
And go, we want to foster a different environment, which currently isn't happening, because we need to be offering these safe spaces. As we go back to the quote at the beginning of the second part of the show, Des, shame dies when stories are told in safe spaces. If we're not creating safe, warm, encouraging, loving, kind spaces for men to open up and talk, they're just not going to do it. And we will carry this stuff, and we all know where that goes, left long term or undealt with.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And that's the key. We're running out of time, and I just wanted to quickly share this, right? Because I think off the back of what we've been saying, Des, this could be a key for someone to step into a men's group this coming year, right? And our whole goal here at Momentum is for guys to get connected. And if you're not currently connected, then we will encourage you to get connected. And if you are connected, then encourage you to keep that connection and keep growing in the depth of that connection. But the Holy Spirit woke me up this morning. And some people might have issue with this, but this is what I felt when I woke up at 3:00 this morning, and I picked up my phone and I thought, wow, I need to write this down. And this is why we need to get connected, Des, right? It's what the Holy Spirit said to me. There are parts of your life that you've yet to put on the cross and fully crucify. You tell yourself a story to keep yourself where you are, and that's where the enemy wants you, because he doesn't want you to let go and let God mold you into the person he wants you to be. Stop making excuses. Stop settling. You have to go to war with the parts of you that you don't like, with the parts of you that aren't in submission, that aren't lining up to God's word. There are parts of your life that you keep laying down and picking back up, laying down and picking back up. And the only way you're going to get rid of it is to lay it down and then have people in your life that you are accountable to help you not to pick it back up.
Wow. I love that, man. That's great. And that's absolutely right, by the way. Absolutely spot on.
And that is why, guys, we need connection.
Yeah.
That is why we need a safe space where we can talk about some of that stuff, because there'll be people listening right now, and I'm going to be speaking to you directly, and I don't mean this rudely. We've all got stuff like we've talked about that, but you got stuff in your life that you've been laying it down and picking it back up and laying it down and picking it back up, and you haven't got victory over it. And part of the reason you haven't got victory over it because you haven't put it on the cross. And for all of us, that's a daily moment by moment decision. And this is why we need other guys to help us, encourage us, to love us when we blow it, to help us put the stuff back on the cross, and to keep us accountable to keep it on the cross and not pick it back up.
Yeah.
That's the power of connect groups.
Yeah. Wow. That's a good place to close off this week's show. It's amazing. Yeah. And guys, before we close, don't forget momentumaustralia.org is our website. Don't forget our current line 1-800-000-MEN for a safe and confidential conversation. And also don't forget YouTube Momentum for Men.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a great show.
It has. Get connected, guys. And look, if you want to reach out, give us a yell at momentumaustralia.org and we'll try and get you connected as best we can. Until then, hey, thanks for listening. It's been a great show, Dace. Thank you.
Okay.
And we'll catch you next time on Momentum. You take care.
Thank you for watching this week's show, and we hope you subscribe to Momentum so you can find out what's happening in the shows in the future.
Absolutely. And keep an eye on our website too. That's momentumaustralia.org. There you'll find all of our shows and a whole heap of resources to help you on your journey. That is momentumaustralia.org.
Until next time, keep moving forward
with Momentum.